the Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Yes, brothers and sisters, this mouse right here, I switched out. I was about to throw it through the screen. I said, you know what? I said a prayer. You'd have to be on this side to understand that this technical stuff, somebody's messing with something, folks. I've never seen it like this before, where I can't even describe to you. But staying focused. Will Christians or believers take the mark of the beast? Like I was stating earlier, it's tough, brothers and sisters, living in a world where people actually have hope and believe in that there'll be opportunity like it was in yesteryears, when those opportunities no longer exist. Folks, when I traveled overseas, and I was in Egypt for a while traveling, folks, I'm going to tell you, the people over there told me that at that time, and this was what, 2010, 2011, that Egypt was in under martial law for 30 years when I traveled there. No one would have ever believed that this is what martial law looks like. Okay. And I'm like, it looks normal to me. He says, no. Under Mubarak, Egypt has been under martial law for 30 years. I'm like, man, this is some smooth martial law y'all got going on over here. Well, what did it look like? Bad economy. Right? Their currency totally devalued, dependent on the dollar. And everyone was driving as an occupation to get by. More taxi cabs on the road than regular automobiles. Outside of that, anything you wanted was delivered to you, be it drink, food, or whatever. People had to make it how they get it out of the ground, because there is no economy to actually drive from a corporate perspective. Everyone had to make their own job or drown. On top of that, the police was no longer in uniform. They were able to assimilate themselves amongst the people in plain clothes, as drivers, as post office deliverers. Okay? It was martial law by the state, while everyone is still having a good time going out and having time with their family, but with no way out financially. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? But one thing that have sustained Egyptians that we don't have in the Western world, family. And because of this, they're going to break every other Western world down to that level where you'll still have some similitude of hope. Only enough for you to depend on the government and go into a mark of the beast system. They've already adjusted the rest of the world into this time. I spoke about this since 2008, 2009. And like I said earlier, even if people had the strength, brothers and sisters, to actually have upward mobility and financial and some type of financial foundation to help their families, people are now too sick to actually help themselves, which is also intentional. And then you have people who are just flat broke, lost their jobs, whatever the case might be. And they're seeking to be on their family for a little bit when the families are struggling. Folks, let me let y'all see this real quick before I bring Ganja in. Let me, fair use for educational purposes only. This particular production, brothers and sisters, came out in 1973. 1973, there was a production with Charleston Heston, the same guy who played Moses in the Ten Commandments, called Soylent Green. Check this out.
New York City in the year 2022. Nothing runs anymore. Nothing works. But the people are the same. And the people will do anything to get what they need.
This is the police.
What they need most is Soylent Green.
The supply of Soylent Green has been exhausted. Returning it home.
Again, they said this in 1973 under Soylent Green. Under Soylent Green, the movie, they said that 2022, the people are all dependent on Soylent Green. As you can see, there was riot in the streets and all of that. At the same time, when we look at it in our current time in which we were going through what they call a pandemic. What was this predictive programming showing that would lead to the mark of the beast? One would ask. Well, check this out.
Come see us doing live.
Check this out here. I want to get the exact spot. Right here. Listen to this, folks. They propped up the economy to make people believe that the economy was thriving. It was all false. What we see in experiencing on the ground real time is really what's going on. But they masked it. They lied and claimed the economy was doing fine when people are suffering everywhere. Even those with degrees cannot find jobs. And there will be no jobs. Listen to this. Fair use. Fair use.
I took my...
Hold on, let me come through here so y'all can hear it better. Right here. You can hear it better now.
Money out of stocks, and I put it in things like gold. I put it into things like Bitcoin. I put it into T-bills.
Fair use.
So is that smarter, or what would you, like when there's going to be for instance, when there's going to be a financial crash, which you say is inevitable, it's coming. What's going to happen to what's going to happen to gold?
Well, gold in a crash will get sold because there'll be margin calls. But gold corrected in the 2008 financial crisis 50%. I think gold given the state of the global sovereign debt crisis, is probably only going to pull back 20 to 25% and go to new all-time high.
And this is fair use for educational and religious purposes only.
So I wouldn't touch gold. I'll just leave it in your portfolio. I think cash, having a large amount of cash to buy things on the cheap is not a bad idea. And Bitcoin, unfortunately, long-term I like it, but it also will go down in a financial correction because of margin calls. Bitcoin is very highly correlated to tech stocks.
So, I mean, Bitcoin went up almost to $100,000, right? That's as high as it's ever been.
Yes, on the Trump win, and I'm not going to call what's going to happen to Bitcoin, but if there is a correction, it could get hit. But long term, just to hold on to it. But cash is always good to have if you want to go back into the stock market and pick up stocks at anywhere from 30 to 80% off sales.
So you're saying stocks will go down anywhere between 30 and 80%. Gold.
No, I think the whole stock market will go down between 30 and 50. Anything more than 50, we have a depression-like scenario. Okay. So if we go down to more than 50, which if you look at the last two big drawdowns, it was the dot-com bubble. We went down 50%. That was kind of the low. That took 2 years. Then the 08 crisis happened super fast, and that was 50%. And any more than that, in the Great Depression, stocks went down 80%. If we go down 80, the math becomes a lot harder to make up those losses. So we don't want that. I'm hopeful that Trump can turn this around, but it's not going to be easy. The deep state has teed up an economic problem for him, and escalation in the Ukraine war front, the Mideast wars, and of course conflict with China and Taiwan.
So gold will go down, not as much as stocks, but hang on to it because it will come back.
That's if you're an investor, yes. If you're not worried about short-term trading.
Now I need y'all to hold tight first. They're just talking about different commodities and different assets, based on what they know where the dollar's going. Okay, but that's not what I want you to focus on. Keep listening.
And just hold on to your gold.
Okay, all right. Did I have another question for you? So when do you have a timeline on any of this?
It seems like it's very close. When I'm looking at the valuation of the stock market, the way it's trading, the internal structure of the market feels sooner rather than later. I've been saying anywhere between now and March, we'll start to see the truth of the economy revealed. And the other thing we have to contend with is the Federal Reserve, which I've come to believe is a democratic/communist institution. They helped. If you remember back in March of last year, we had a bunch of bank failures.
Yes.
And that was really, and that got a kind of a memory hole because the Fed lent out billions and billions of dollars to these banks to keep them afloat. That program ended March, and it's unwinding, and it's almost all gone, those loans to those banks. So it wouldn't surprise me when we see a regional banking crisis emerge in the next 12 months as the Fed's liquidity there dries up. The Fed also went on an interest rate hiking binge. And you have to understand, Jimmy, there's an 18-month lag between interest rate changes and monetary policy flowing through to the real economy. In November of 2022, the money supply growth went below zero year-over-year change, first time since the 30s. That's got an 18-month lag. That hit in May. So we're right in the danger zone.
So didn't they just recently cut interest rates? Correct.
They did that, and that's the tell that they know behind the curtain things aren't good in the banking system. This happened in the dot-com bubble. They started cutting interest rates all the way down into the lows of 2002, and they also in the financial crisis started cutting interest rates in 2007. And that did not, stop the financial crisis. They're always behind the curve. So the market leads them. The fact that they just started cutting should scare everyone immensely because they know behind the scenes something's going on.
And so that's them cutting the interest rates. Has that actually made it easier for people to get a loan? Because I see houses that are not selling in my neighborhood and I can't figure out why. And I know a friend who was just trying to buy a house and he was having a hard time getting a loan and he's got money. So is some of them cutting interest rates, you think that would loosen up money? Is it?
No, the bank lending is actually getting worse. It's harder to get loans. So credit is tightening as we speak. These interest rate cuts they started in September won't impact the economy until 18 months, or on average 18 months later. So there's always a lag between cutting and it actually juicing the economy.
So harder to get a loan right now.
Right now, absolutely. And the bankruptcies are on the rise. Consumer delinquencies are on the rise. Jobs, once we get the truth on jobs, and you know, anybody you talk to is trying to find a job is having a very difficult time in the private sector. The Biden administration padded the job numbers with government jobs. There were about 950,000 jobs, government jobs added in the month of September alone. Who knows what they were for?
So what do you?
Now, when he talk about the jobs, folks, the reason why they were so fervent on these migrants is that gave people who didn't have jobs something to do. All of these contracts coming in for migrants were given to people, and it really propped people up to make them think that they had a job, when really it was a contract to hold people in place until they realized there's nothing else. So you want to know why Democrats was fighting for the migrants? They were able to create jobs for people who wouldn't have worked anywhere otherwise. Listen to this. And the government jobs was displacing migrants. And through that, they had all these people moving people around, getting paid through the government under these jobs that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Listen.
I think the real unemployment number is, I've had people on the show and no one believes the real, because they started counting unemployment differently than they used to in the 80s. And so now it's harder to get a real grasp on what it is. I've had people say it's 13 to 15%. I've had some people say it's 20%. What do you think the real unemployment number is?
I think the range 10 to 20 is realistic. And what they did, Jimmy, is they, if you stop, if you've been unemployed for like over a year and you stop looking, they don't count you as, part of the labor pool. So it's sleight of hand. And there are some people who are chronically unable to find jobs, drawing down their savings, their 401ks, getting, HELOC loans on their properties just to make bill payments, or taking three, someone who was making $150,000 at a tech company loses their job, and then they, after a while they become a waiter, waitress, Uber driver, you name it.
So let's remember, in the Great Depression, the unemployment rate was 25%.
Correct.
So that's where our economy, that's the real economy. When you see corporate news talking heads saying, "Oh, the economy's great. I don't know what's going." I've had people tell me restaurants are full, the economy's great, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure the unemployment rate is horrible. And so you're saying you're estimating it somewhere between 10 and 20%. 25% was what it was during the Great Depression. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and the other thing that people need to be aware of is before the election, for about 4 or 5 months, real weekly average wage growth was minus 2%. And that's happened in 1980. That's when Ronald Reagan won a landslide. That happened in 92 when Clinton got in there, when James Carville famously said,
"It's the economy stupid."
It's the economy stupid, that's right. And Trump had those numbers going into this election. So I other than a steal, I was of the opinion he had already won, because, let's be honest, we have people that are extreme. We're on social media, so there's always extremes. There's this extreme liberals and crazy left and crazy MAGA right that are that are very extreme. In the middle, most people just want to, have a job, and that's why I knew Trump was going to win. Anytime those numbers pop up, the administration gets thrown out and a new guy gets in there.
And you're more comfortable with a Trump administration in an economic crisis.
I just wanted to show that there's really no jobs. They're lying. And that's what people are feeling right now, the pinch. Hoping that sooner or later the economy is going to open up and things is going to be exactly how we thought, how we were wishing. But folks, there's no one coming to save anybody. Now, why am I bringing this in the midst of this? 1 second right here. I want to show this real quick, and then I'm going to bring Rawchaa in.
Well, the deep state is...
Let me show this real quick. 1 second. And this is going to be where I bring Rawchaa in. Rawchaa's in Jamaica. He's going to give us an update on what's going on. He went through the hospital. And they even asked Rawchaa. One person came to Rawchaa and approached him to run for parliament over in Jamaica. We're going to talk about this. Right? Rawchaa, you there?
Yeah, Lawya.
All right, give me 1 second, Rawchaa. I want you to hear this based on what we talked about today, okay?
Sure.
Look at this. Fair use for educational purposes only. This is something that I got from Redacted. So if you get an opportunity, go and subscribe, because this is going to lean into what we're talking about with the mark of the beast. No jobs, no homes, and on top of that, you're sick. What alternative is left for you then? What? The Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. Will Christians and believers take the mark of the beast when they realize there is no economy? Check this out, folks. Fair use for educational purposes only. Go subscribe to Redacted, because at least they allow them to say this.
Research, and it makes some interesting findings, including that, here's the biggest no-duh of all. Okay, let me know if this is brand new information. They conclude that public health officials must work to regain Americans' trust. Americans want to be educated, not indoctrinated.
Fair use.
You think? At least we have Congress saying this, that most of this was political and not based on science. Now, the report concludes, though, strangely, that Operation Warp Speed, the vaccine development and rollout, was a success, but it also does find that there are many injuries that the United States has still to contend with. So how do we define success? We've gone over this many times.
Hey, brothers and sisters, we're down by at least 500 likes. Please hit the like button. We're under a shadow ban. Others won't know that we're broadcasting if you don't hit the button, so please help us.
But I think it bears repeating that every time somebody says the vaccine saved lives, what they refer to is a chart just like this one that uses mathematical models. So what they're saying is that the dark blue and light blue are the deaths that we expected based on math models, but the red number is the deaths that happened. And since we never hit those blue numbers, we're going to say that that's because of the vaccine. That doesn't bear out for several reasons, mainly that the death numbers stayed pretty constant throughout 21 and 22. The red doesn't suddenly plummet except for just in July of 2021, but then it stays constant. Also, COVID did not magically go away, and the vaccine has a shelf life, we're told, of about a year. So then why would deaths stay constant? So I'm not sure exactly when people say, oh, the vaccine saved lives. I'm really confused on why they're so sure of that if they studied these models. Like, okay, we're going to talk to Regina Wattiel about this. She's a mathematician who studied the COVID numbers in the next couple of days. So, okay, that's why they're saying that Operation Warp Speed was a success. But it does say we have vaccine injuries to contend with, and the government is shockingly not doing a good job. Take a look at this chart here. It shows that only 25% of injury claims have been paid out. 25% of the claims, but they're still, of the ones that were accepted, they've only paid out 25%, but there's a denial rate of 98%. And the government themselves can't figure out why some claims are paid and some are not. For example, look at this here. You notice that these are some claims that were actually paid. Strangely, one myocarditis victim was paid $370,000 when the rest of them got...
Myocarditis, it shows, is people that had heart issues after taking it.
Basically between $1,000 and $4,000. One person got 12. They say, we don't really know
Do they have to
why
sign,
this happened.
Do they sign non-disclosure agreements to get that money?
I'm not exactly sure about these specific people. I'm sure that they did.
Right.
But what they're saying is that there are two different processes of processing claims. So if you go through this, what do they call it, VICP, then you actually get to go to a court, and a court may award you more money, presumably because judges may be likely to be more fair, feel sorry for you. But the other way that is processed is through the government, and the government is inconsistent. I know, that's shocking, right? So note to self, use this VICP claim process if you ever need it. Okay, a few more revelations from the report. It's 502 pages, so I haven't got through all of it yet. But it does conclude things we were not allowed to say during the pandemic, such as the U.S. NIH-funded gain-of-function research at Wuhan. Okay, COVID likely did come from a lab. We were allowed to say that in 2021. And that the Chinese government and the United States government and members of the scientific community, it doesn't name Fauci specifically, but we know that he did that with the Nature paper, did work to cover up facts concerning the origins of the pandemic. It is damning for Eco Alliance, which did fund this gain-of-function research. Take a look here. It says that Eco Alliance and Dr. Peter Daszak should never again receive U.S. taxpayer dollars. So, okay, and we found out through emails in this report that Eco Alliance has been referred for criminal investigation. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That showed that they were working on subpoenas, that a grand jury had been subpoenaed, and that they were responding to a DOJ investigation. We don't know, though, if that's ongoing, if it has been concluded, if that's all wrapped up. We don't know. Maybe the next administration will know. At least it shows that Joe Biden's Department of Justice did have an appetite for looking into this. That's something, right?
Yeah, that is something. And it's also an acknowledgement that Rand Paul was correct when everyone called him a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
And he was going after Eco Alliance, Peter Daszak, and Dr. Fauci.
Yes.
So that's an admission that he was correct.
He had his YouTube channel frozen for saying just that. Do you recall?
Yes, I do.
In 2021. So, okay, it talks about all the things that it says, this is not conspiracy, this is not conspiracy. So at least we get something of that. And again, it acknowledges the harm that was done to school children specifically during lockdowns. And I like this conclusion. It says, the Constitution cannot be suspended in times of crisis and restriction on freedoms, so distrust in public health. So yeah, we should have our freedoms, full stop. We should not have those freedoms suspended because of any, what they call emergency. Who was it, FDR? I think that, no, who was it?
What's the question?
That said, government power comes in a Trojan horse of emergency. It was head of CIA. Anyway, that quote.
President H.W. Bush?
No, it was head of CIA.
Oh, you said president. Okay.
Never mind, I'll look up the quote. But the theory here applies is that your freedoms are taken under the auspices, under the Trojan horse of emergency.
Oh, that's how it always is. I mean, this is exactly why we have after 9/11.
J. Edgar Hoover said that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Gotcha.
He was head of CIA. He was neither of those things.
Okay, is that every collectivist
Gotcha.
rides in on a Trojan horse of emergency? That's the quote.
Yes.
From J. Edgar Hoover.
Well, just look at the Patriot Act for crying
I
out
have
loud.
no
So,
control. I have no
like,
control of my computer right now.
Wires hanging out of his shoe on the, that was going to blow up a plane.
Oh, wow.
It was not going to go off anyway. And now we all
I have no control over my computer.
Like this emergency. I mean, again, look at what happened in South Korea today. We're declaring a martial law because there's people politically that don't like me. So I'm going to become a dictator and declare martial law and blame it on the Russians, blame it on the North Koreans. And the people didn't buy it. So I think now we're sort of, hopefully we're more awake.
Brothers and
We
sisters,
want to keep eroding our freedoms.
I have no control over my computer right now.
Warp speed was a success and saved lives because the WEF and the WHO wanted the world shut down for 7 to 10 years until a vaccine was found. So a success meaning that they were able to get this thing out and I guess make them happy.
Well, it made Big Pharma shareholders happy. Big Pharma funds many congressional members, so maybe it's a success for them, but not the American people. I'm sorry, I did just pull up my notes. It was President Herbert Hoover.
Brothers and sisters, I have no control over my computer right now.
Martin Van Buren Martin Short that said that. Martin Short, who was the head of the yes, the head of the comedy division, was Samuel Clemens.
Part 3 coming up. Hold tight, folks.
Bill Gates has gone viral once again, and he tends to go viral for saying things that are true. And people cannot believe that he actually let the cat out of the bag on this story. So he admitted yesterday that India was his personal playground for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which of course fund all sorts of experimental vaccines. Where do you go? You go to India, you go to Africa, and you test them there because then we don't learn about it. And if they fail, we don't learn about it. Then people die, we don't hear about it, right? Because who cares about those Indians, right? Who cares about those Africans, according to these rich billionaires? So Bill Gates just admitted on a podcast that India is treated as a giant laboratory of his to test things on.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You seen that?
Yo, what? Someone hacked into the computer? What was going on?
Yeah, someone probably hacked into the computer and make it where there's no control at all outside of shutting down.
Oh, wow. Oh,
right?
Wow.
Well, I think that I've shown enough of the video, I believe, so that we can go into part 2 in a couple of seconds. Listen, right now, even though I'm talking to you, everything is shut down. Everything is shut down, even while I'm talking to you, Gaja.
Nah, that's crazy.
All right, so hold on.
Check it. Let's check it. Hold up. Are you all right? Do you do that?
Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
And I'm saying that, based on the conversation that we had today, and based on what you're gonna go into now and bring out,
yeah,
somebody, something, somewhere does not want this conversation to come out or happen.
No.
Just real time looking at it.
Real time looking at it.
Shalom, mother.
Shalom. Check it out. Am I still live?
You are still live.
Let me tell you, I don't know what's going on. I totally have no control of this computer. Second time in a row. It started speeding up when they started talking. Right? So set up part 3 right now.
Yes, sir.
All right, my man. Make sure you title it part 2.
Yes, sir.
Leave this one up, okay?
Yes, sir.
Come on back, folks. Real time. Something don't want us to. Let me tell you, the title, Will Christians Take the Mark of the Beast? They know a lot of people are looking at this. They don't want no one to connect the dots, folks. We've been talking about this before YouTube, of where we are right now, including it's Elon Musk. All of them are involved in bringing forth the mark of the beast. And I'm putting it out there now. Jobs aren't coming back. Eventually what they're going to do, there will be panic in the street, and it's going to be a blood sport to survive. That's what's coming, folks. Blood sport. Now, they really didn't want me to show this part, and I'm going to pick it up from where this left off at because there's something important here. Based on Gaja walked through the hospitals in Jamaica, and he need to give you the insight. The hospitals in our neighborhoods, people are sick, they're dying, they're getting all these different diagnoses, and no one is putting 2 and 2 together. And the people are silent because silently, Gaja, they know what's behind all of the sicknesses and all that. But because people were complicit, they're too guilty to say anything.
That's exactly what it is.
So, Gaja, hold tight. I'm going to shut this computer down one more again, and we're coming back with the scriptures, but I'm going to bring you in first so you can give your testimony of what's going on over there, politically and otherwise, okay?
Will do. Okay.
All right. I'm shutting the computer down. Again.